So the message is now's the time. This is the time to make that next step in the digital transformation and really get yourself to a point where your solutions can be connected to everything that's going on in the environment around you. So if you look back at where we are today and think about where we're going in the future. So if it's been a while since you've looked at a business system, a lot of things have changed over the past 10 years. So when you first started looking at it, you were probably worried about this whole cloud thing because cloud wasn't very secure. But now cloud is far more secure than anything that you can do on premise. So that's one thing that's really changed over the past few years. Now there's also a big desire to be able to have access to systems on multiple different devices. So it's not always just people working at their desk. I mean, with the pandemic now, you got people working at home, but you've also had the opportunity to light up opportunities for people to work in the field on their mobile devices or tablets. That is a big change that's happened over the past 10 years. Software as a service is now something that is very common, and it allows you to be able to plug in a solution that might fit your overall enterprise very easily. And so just turn something on, turn something off as you need it. That flexibility is now there in the ecosystem. Another thing that's been exciting is the growth of low code or no code platforms. So when you're thinking about building a solution or a line of business app that might connect to your core system, you don't have to be thinking about millions of dollars and an army of developers to be able to do this now. You can do this much more easily with either software that exists or software that you can build and connect to your system fairly quickly. And integration has gotten a lot easier, and the Microsoft story is really, really strong as it relates to an integration platform. So the Dataverse model that kind of underpins everything in the Microsoft Dynamics environment allows you to build connections to other solutions. You can build connections to a Salesforce or Workday or another solution that you might be plugging into very easily now because Microsoft's built a platform that allows you to be able to connect it. So again, just like you don't have to have an army of developers to necessarily build a solution anymore, you don't necessarily need an army of developers to build integrations anymore, which is key. And it's so much easier to get BI today. The visualization tool that Power BI brings to the table allows you to create some really cool business intelligence reports that you would have taken, again, an army of BI developers to build in the past. So there's so many more things today that are easier to do now with this connected cloud environment than they were in the past, that you can take advantage of all of this stuff. But maybe what's even more exciting is what's coming next. So what's on the horizon? So if you've been around anything Microsoft related, you've probably heard them talk about these two letters, AI. So artificial intelligence. And if you've seen ChatGPT or any of the investment that's going on in new Bing or all these other tools that a lot of the other vendors are putting out, this generative AI has really been a bit of a quantum leap in the capability of artificial intelligence. So I've got a session coming up after this where we'll talk about it a little bit more, and Scott will show you a little bit about what you can do with AI today. But AI is really a key focus of what Microsoft is bringing to the table, and there are so many ways you can create efficiency using AI today that we'll show you a few of them, but there's even more that you can think about. And this could just be a huge cost saver, a huge opportunity to do customer service better than you have before, taking advantage of AI. And for all of you manufacturers out there, robotics is going to play a big role. It probably is already something that you're doing something with today, but it can play even bigger role as humanoid type robots are available to be on your manufacturing floor, and you can register all of the activity that they're doing and pull that back into your centralized system. That's a great opportunity for you to have better visibility to where things are on the warehouse floor or the manufacturing floor. IoT or Internet of Things. So again, this is connected devices. So being able to get information from all of your devices, bring that back to a central place and be able to take action on it, whether it's replace a part in something that's going to go bad before it actually does go bad. Those are all things that you can do with IoT. And then Microsoft has put this Microsoft Fabric into place, which brings all of these disparate BI or disparate databases into one BI platform. That's going to help you to be able to report even better than you have today. So these are all things that are on the near horizon. These are not, 20 years from now. These are things that are coming and that will continue to evolve over the next few years that can make a big impact on your business. But the key is you need to be on a connected cloud to take advantage of all of this.
Right.
If you're running, Mapix or Dynamics AX 2009, you're not going to get any of these benefits. Yes, you can build a Power BI report if you dump your data out to Excel and massage it, but you're not going to get the benefits unless you move to a fully connected cloud. And so now's the time to move to this Microsoft Cloud platform that gives you the ERP capability of finance and operations or Business Central, and gives you all of the capability in the CRM or the customer engagement platform, as well as the Power Platform, Power BI. All of this stuff is connected. And if you get there, it just lights up so many different opportunities for you in the future. So with that, I'll hand it off to Scott to talk a little bit about these specific solutions and where they fit in to your connected cloud experience.
Yeah, appreciate it, Eric. So when we talk about obviously the modern architecture that new business systems use, we're really talking about many different services that can provide basically the support for your business, whether it's through manufacturing operations or distribution operations, or even from a financial or customization perspective as well. These are needs that businesses typically have. And in the past, what we used to do as partners and even at Microsoft is that we would basically try to conquer everything, so to speak, inside of one system. And what we found over time is that the usability aspect, for example, having a salesperson go into an accounting system to do lead and opportunity management isn't as good typically from a user experience perspective of that salesperson, for example, actually using a tried and true Dynamics 365 sales based lead to opportunity processing application. When we look at the solutions that are out there from a business perspective to address the challenges that you have, especially in manufacturing, we really look at four main pillars of cloud solutions from Microsoft to basically address those needs. We look at Dynamics, for example, to use tried and true best practice-based business processes that we use then to implement said features and capabilities, such as three-way matching or manufacturing execution systems or inventory management. Dynamics 365 provides that base for you so you don't need to then create your own inventory management systems, but you can still then snap in and integrate basically with Dynamics 365 with the entire Microsoft stack. The other areas that we use to address these needs are with Azure, Power Platform, and also the modern workplace-based products from the Microsoft solutions. So Azure, as we know, is going to be a plethora of different services from Logic Apps to Azure Active Directory, which has been rebranded now as Entra ID. There's just a lot of great technologies that are used there to be able to manage your business and address those business needs, along with the Power Platform, which allows you to create custom applications with virtually no code being created to be able to create those applications. So there's just a lot of great capabilities, and we're going to highlight those today. And finally, obviously, with Modern Workplace, the tried and true applications that we're used to that we've known about for years, such as Outlook or Exchange or some of those other technology service-based products. Modern Workplace really helps as well in this story because there is the statement that we've heard many times, right, Eric, which is the best ERP application is Excel. Well, we like to say Excel is great to do reporting, but from there, from an integration perspective, it's a really powerful tool to be able to look at your data to get to that information. When we think about what the digital transformation platform is from a Microsoft perspective here, This is where we start looking at the connected system. And I just want to highlight a little bit of a difference between what Microsoft's goal is and what we view our competitors to be as we go through and build out this slide. From a Microsoft perspective, we've got a tried and true set of technologies, like Eric had mentioned, that natively integrate with each other. Basically, we have Azure, we have data, we've got Power Platform, we've got Dynamics, we've got all these different types of technologies then that can snap in with each other. And the problem that we see typically with our competition, as Eric, you can build that out a little bit more, is the fact that when you look at software, software can be a culture. And if you're trying to implement two different types of company software, as you can see here from a competitive perspective, it really makes it harder because those integrations are different. The data types might be different. Even the way that they do the processing might be slightly different, right? So when we look at Microsoft's cloud, it's a really important aspect just to know that we have a very integrated solution that we're going to show a little bit later here today, but it's just a very powerful solution as well, as you'll see. Think with that, Eric, we're looking at now the top challenges with manufacturing, right? That we've seen.
Yeah, so as a manufacturer, this is what we're hearing from a lot of our clients is, let's bring this specifically to what's going on in manufacturers. So some of the big challenges are labor. So labor is the number one, a top challenge that manufacturers are having today, and it generally has to do with the availability of labor, like just not being able to find enough resources. And there's also the aspect of, are they qualified and can you keep them in place? And that labor challenge is going to exist for the next several years as well too. I gave an update on, or spent some time on our Stoneridge Connect event, I think it was a year ago, just talking about the labor market and how the demographics are such that there's not as many new people coming into the labor market as there are those that are retiring, and that's not going to change for several years. So labor is a challenge that's not going to go away. So let's talk about what might be some ways to mitigate that risk. Supply chain is, as you know, during the pandemic, there were tons of supply chain, huge disruptions. It's getting better now, but there's still, supply chain is still such a key aspect to you being able to be successful in manufacturing. And you're seeing more and more manufacturers trying to like own components of their supply chain just to make sure that they can be confident that it's going to be there for them when they need it. And the macro economy, you've got inflation, you've got instability of the relationship between the US and China, for example. Those are all things that you need to be watching. If the relationship with China gets worse, what does that mean for parts that you're going to be trying to get from China? Are you going to have to think about another supply chain option there? And then just overall operational efficiency. It's difficult to take the time to refine your process to make sure you've got a good approach to doing everything. We'll be doing a session a little bit later about warranties, and warranties are a challenging process, right? You have to take the time to really define how you're going to do that, and they'll build an operational plan around it. And then finally, distribution model is an opportunity in a couple different places. So a lot of manufacturers don't really know how much product is moving in all of their different distribution or retail sites. What if you had real-time access to that? And then a lot of manufacturers too are looking at their distribution model and going, well, I got some of my distributors or retailers selling my stuff on Amazon. Why don't I try to just look at an e-commerce opportunity of my own? So these are all some of the things that we're hearing from our clients that are some challenges, and we understand that, and this connected cloud opportunity gives you an opportunity to really address a lot of these challenges that we'll talk a little bit more about.
Yeah, Eric, I think one of the big things here is like really how does a connected system help manufacturers address really their business challenges, right? Because we're talking about a connected platform, and the inverse argument to it would be an older monolithic concept of having one database to rule them all, right? Which is what we did in the past. I've already kind of interjected why that's not probably the best way to tackle it. But if we go to the next slide here, what we can see is that there's really a couple of core reasons why Microsoft is going down the path of creating separate applications for what we call workloads, like financial workloads or supply chain based workloads, right? First off, they're faster to implement. You can actually componentize, for example, a specific workload and implement that said capability inside of your organization without doing a massive system replacement. You can incrementally basically address those needs, which is a really powerful thing if you think about that risk reduction concept. You can actually cut down on the costing of licensing. The benefit of the cloud is that it's consumption based. The negative aspect of it is that it's consumption based as well, right? So being able to balance that can be extremely beneficial. If you have the know-how on how to scale things up and down, you can actually win pretty substantially when it comes to a cost perspective with your software, as you can imagine. You can phase things. You can actually quickly react then to needs because now, for example, there's a new microservice that came out that does better planning capabilities, like in finance and operations with the introduction of demand-driven MRP-based capabilities. You can just use that capability and then start doing your planning process with it. And it allows for obviously some of those native integrations to be leveraged. So you don't need to use a third party like Scribe to have customer information that's usually shared between a CRM application and an ERP application, right? It allows for you to really go through and then drive that. And then as well, if you think about it, being able to have the latest and greatest capabilities here are really, really powerful because with this cloud concept, no longer are you installing software and letting it sit for 10 years. Every quarter, or actually, excuse me, twice a year, we are getting updates, major updates. Technically, every single month, basically, there's an update that occurs on the platform in some way, shape, or form. But the net result of it is that it's giving you additional capabilities and features, which just at the end of the day really drives a lot of that productivity inside of your organization. In terms of some of the other use cases as well, I mean, there's quite a bit of them. If we talk through them at a high level, and we'll show some of these during our quick demo here, but obviously we can have customers that can interact, for example, with Power Pages to then create a case or look up knowledge base articles that are inside of Dynamics 365 customer service. We have the ability for field invoice, for example, field service, for example, to generate invoices inside of Business Central or inside of finance and operations. We have the ability to use advanced supply chain concepts where we may need advanced transportation management or packing capabilities inside of our supply chain operation, and supply chain management allows for that. We have the ability, for example, to use MES as well in supply chain to capture the data in the production process without the use of a third-party ISV application. And we can store this data in a data lake to cut down on the cost requirement that you may have inside of your organization, which is just a phenomenal thing in terms of just being able to control the data that you need for reporting and actually keeping that cost down. It's a wonderful thing that we're starting to see manufacturers use more and more often from that data and reporting perspective.
Yeah, and keep all those reporting activities off of your transactional system, so your transactional system's even faster. So
Totally agree.
So how's AI affecting manufacturers? So we want to share a few things, and then Scott will share an interesting demo about some things that you can use with it today. And I'll go into this a little bit more. So if you go to the next session about how to talk to leadership about AI, I'll talk a little bit more about this. But today's AI reality, I kind of classify it into three groups, like pattern matching, physical controls, and communication. So where we've been in pattern matching was it took a long time to train a model to find patterns in the past. But with GPT-4 and the advances in generative AI, that's created this content explosion or content generation explosion. So we're already there, and that's just going to continue to improve. Now, on the physical control side, again, many of you are doing some basic work with robotics, or you've automated something, or you've bought a machine that does an activity on your manufacturing floor. But what's coming soon is humanoid robots who can walk around your factory floor to be able to get more done. And full self-driving is going to have a huge impact. So if you think about trucking being able to be done in an automatic or automated way, just think how that's going to change your cost structure and the way that you operate today. And then communications, which maybe doesn't get as much in conversation in this space in particular, but the adoption of Zoom and Teams has really changed the way that we communicate today, but it's going to change even more. So mixed reality, augmented reality, it's going to make you feel like you're in the same room as someone who's a long ways away. So all these trips that you're taking to go see your suppliers in China, you can do that through mixed reality and feel like you're in the same room, sharing some same experiences. So Scott will talk a little bit about how AI is getting used by manufacturers today.
Yeah, I can just give a couple of quick examples because I definitely want to get to the demo here. So there's really three main areas that I've seen a lot of manufacturers start to use the artificial intelligence-based capabilities. And I do want to say, when I say AI, I'm generalizing. There's machine learning, there's AI, there's a lot of different types of technologies that go under that AI umbrella. But the cool things about it are like computer vision, quality management, for example, being able to take a picture of a product that you're producing and then have the machine tell you where there may be quality issues or defects. Hole punches, as an example of that, we had a manufacturer that actually had to do rework on some of the plates that they created, and they caught it by taking pictures, and the system was able to detect basically that they did not have the right pattern in there as part of that quality order. So computer vision is a really key component in some industries like agriculture. It's everywhere. Large language models like ChatGPT, this is Copilot. This is what we're starting to see now, and we're going to take a look at in a second here as well. And then there's also all these great machine learning-based capabilities inside of Dynamics 365, like demand forecasting and late payment prediction, that basically allow for end users to get more information and make better decisions based upon really the results of these algorithms inside of the system. So kind of going a little bit more in detail, though, one of the big ones that's been out there recently has been this concept of Copilot. And we at Stoneridge have been working really hard to demystify this, because Copilot really is the integration with the large language models like ChatGPT to be able to take content and then do something with that content. It's a phenomenal content generator if you look at it from that regard, of being able to take content that you may have in bits and pieces and then create marketing descriptions, or even look at your knowledge base articles, for example, and come up with ideas or suggestions. So this Copilot capability is not only in the modern workplace products that we see here, but also inside of Dynamics 365. I can use, for example, Copilot to create flows automatically inside of the system. I can use ChatGPT for bank reconciliations, for example, inside of BC, to do matching as well. I'm not going to read every single one of these, but the net result is that there's a lot of different types of technologies that you can use for process enablement inside of our solution. And I think with that, Eric, I think we want to jump into just a couple-minute demonstration here to show
Yeah.
just a couple of these technologies, right, as we go through this process, so you can understand, well, what's the big deal and what's the hype around this. So what I'm going to do just really quickly here is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and hopefully you'll be able to see it here in just a second. But really what I'm doing here is I'm starting inside of Dynamics 365 customer service. One of the things I like to highlight right away here, if you want to actually integrate, for example, within Power BI, inside of Dynamics 365 customer service, I can go into here, add a dashboard, and boom, automatically, I'm going to have then my Power BI dashboard inside of customer service. And this is everywhere, and it can be embedded in so many more areas as well. I take this for granted, but it's a really cool feature, as you can imagine. What you can also do inside, if you're from a customer service perspective, if I look at this, for example, I'm logged in as a customer service agent, and maybe I need to have different types of streams of information that are coming to me that I need to then interact, obviously, with customers, maybe through a phone call or maybe through a bot, right? So here's an example of a Power Virtual Agent that's running that could be embedded in your website, or could be a support bot for your products, for example, in which they have said there is an issue with one of their products. And what you can see here when I actually go through and open up then this information is that the chat information is here along with the sentiment information as well. So for example, if I said I am unhappy for some reason, we can see on the top here that we have our sentiment information that's related to this as well. Now, depending upon where the information came from, you can actually go ahead and search, for example, for customers directly from this screen so that you can see, for example, if this customer is Claudia, what are the things that are going on inside of the environment that may be causing an issue, right? So if Claudia calls up and says she has an issue with one of her coffee makers, if I look down here, I can see there's already some cases that have been created inside of field service. And if I click on those cases, I can actually get back into the actual IoT alert that was created that came from the coffee maker that we sold Claudia, that's installed at her business, that's now relaying information stating that there is an issue with this particular coffee maker. And as a customer service representative, I can look at this information. I can also then relate this, as you can imagine, then to work orders or any of the other types of information that may be needed then to be able to go through and diagnose and repair that. Now, it doesn't just stop there. If we move now over into field service as an example inside of here, what I can do is I can use field service now to take that work order that we just generated and actually go through and then book it through our universal resource scheduling. So as you can see here, I can actually go ahead and drag and drop different types of work orders to basically go through and then align technicians for the work that they need to do to be able to service that given product. It can do transit times. It can do all these cool features inside of it as well to break that out even further. And then lastly, inside of here, when we look at some of the AI enablement that we have, I just want to show one more thing here. If I go back, for example, to Claudia, and I go to the customer summary that's related to this, for this information on the far right here, as you can see, I have AI capabilities like Smart Assist that tells me, for example, what the similar articles are that are related maybe to this conversation. I have the ability to open up Copilot, for example, and if I don't know how to respond to that, I am happy, what I can do is I can ask Copilot, can you suggest a response for me based upon all this conversation that we've had? And what we'll see on the far right is that it will come back with that response that I can then paste to the customer and then interact with them. And this goes further, meaning if you had more specific knowledge base or technical questions that are there, obviously it would then show you that information and recommend how to clean a coffee maker, for example, might be a part of that. And then finally, just to bring this home, I do want to highlight, obviously you'll dispatch, you'll invoice. Well, inside of Business Central, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to see, for example, that invoice for that customer for that field service work that you did. As you can see here, if I look at my customer ledger entries that are related to Fourth Coffee, and I actually filter it down just to the ones that we have here for today, I can see, for example, that we did at some point, for example, go through and invoice the work that we did from within field service. And we're using also some of the machine learning capabilities to do late payment prediction that actually can go through and say, hey, this customer typically is late payment or makes late payments. You should probably plan on that as part of this. So this, in just a little bit here, we covered in terms of the connected system, about 6 different technologies with Entra, Dynamics 365 Customer Service, Power Virtual Agents, Power BI, Copilot, IoT Hub, Field Service, Universal Resource Scheduling, right? I could go on, but the cool thing about all of this, Eric, is that it's natively integrated. And as you look at what capabilities you need, obviously you can scale then these needs to make it more efficient and more effective for your business need, or expand it to actually encompass multiple scenarios inside of your organization. So Eric, that's kind of what I
Yeah,
had to show here.
that's exciting stuff. And it was rapid fire, but you can
Right.
see all of those different tools that have different users, the different functions, but they're all connected. And that's really what we're talking about here today is now's the time to make the move to the connected cloud. You get all these benefits that have accumulated over these past 10 plus years as the cloud has really grown to a secure, safe, integrated system. Plus, you get to take advantage of all this new forthcoming technology. As he showed you a little bit of a preview of what's going on, what's able to be there in AI today, but that's just going to continue to grow over the next few years.